Okay, welcome all to the show. I'm your host, Stoli, and as always going to be very animated in terms of talking about our passions, future career advice, and once again, we got a wonderful guest. We got podcast creator and narrator Lindsay Graham. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Anytime. He has guest starred on podcasts such as Reconsider, Podcast Advertising Playbook, Career Crossroads, The Greatness Machine, Double Dose, and On the Clock. Here we're going to go into just future passions, career advice, and sound tech talk. So once again, glad to have you on. It's a long time coming. It's just cool to just have one Dallas native talking to another Dallas native who's made it in some capacity.
Yeah. I'm glad to be here.
It didn't happen overnight, obviously, but as you've already talked about that numerous times. But it's just it is funny where the dominoes fall, isn't it?
Yeah, you can never predict. I certainly didn't plan for my career to be where it is right now, but I'm glad for it.
Totally. So you've had so many wonderful collaborators and beyond gifted voice actors, some of who have gone to Baylor University and are even making it big in LA now. But out of all the guests you've had, how did you first meet History That Doesn't Suck host and Professor Greg Jackson?
Yeah, I met Greg at a podcast convention, Podcast Movement in 2019 in Orlando, Florida, I think. And so I really enjoy Podcast Movement and other conventions. That's one of the bigger ones.
So that's a big turnout every year.
Yeah. And so it was an opportunity it's always an opportunity to kind of rub elbows with other podcasters. Increasingly, it's a great source of networking on the business side. But every once in a while, there's on the content side, on the creator side, there are like history podcast get-togethers, and I went to one in the food court in this giant, hotel in Orlando, and Greg was there as well. There's probably about 6 of us. And so he was just one of the more interesting persons in the group. And I think we just kind of clicked. Neither of us had heard each other's shows. So it was a good excuse to go listen to something new. And I heard that Greg was doing something pretty special and actually similar to what I was doing, bringing a real storytelling element to the communication of history. But he's an academic and I'm not, so he has more credentials. Anyways, it started a good friendship and a good professional relationship.
Stellar. And these were they're not just colleagues at this point. They're also just professional friends who you're going to just remember these just collaborations the rest of your life. Just because, again, you're telling history, you're telling something with passion.
Yeah, I would think so. I'm looking forward to seeing Greg here in Dallas when his road show comes to town in early October.
Oh, lovely. And I know your major was advertising, but growing up, what chapter of history would you say you were fascinated by the most?
Yeah. Greg has all the credentials, academic credentials in history. I don't. I started as a history major and have always been interested in history. I did eventually end up with just a business degree. But when I was interested academically in history, it was probably European history, probably 19th century European history. I've forgotten so much of it by now, and my focus has shifted to American history. But I was certainly transfixed by episodes like the Dreyfus Affair, or the reign of Otto von Bismarck and how in his Realpolitik. I really can't speak to them with authority anymore because I've just forgotten it all. But it was a time and a place that seemed transitional it was an aristocratic Europe, shedding its empire and moving into a new age. And so there was a lot of change, a lot of excitement, a lot of wars. It was just captivating.
Yeah. And you've done such a great job with so many of these podcasts that making it almost feel like we're watching a live, like PBS, program, or even a West Wing or John Adams type program, just because you've gotten so good at this Foley. But how did you first get into sound tech type material, let alone studying music notes and?
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in audio. I've played guitar since high school, and I've been in bands, and I've produced bands, and I built this little studio that I'm in. And so I'm very familiar and comfortable around audio technology. Microphones are just cool, man. And so
Yeah,
that's kind of how I entered that side of the business. I never really expected to be on this side of the microphone. But having, being a composer and knowing, how to engineer things is really where I thought I would stay. But that's been certainly helpful because I had come into a podcast industry that, with a large technical set of skills, that many podcast producers that are more journalism oriented do not have. And so I think actually one of probably my unfair advantages here is that I can really, with great detail, imagine what it sounds like, what something might sound like. I can read a sentence and know how it's constructed or where it should have emphasis or how it can be rewritten so it will sound better. And I don't think a lot of people have lived in audio the way I have for decades now. When they
it's a good time saver.
Sure, yeah, it helps a lot to hear when things are going wrong before they go wrong.
This is anticlimactic, or this should start off with this, or this is excess or redundantly stated, so it should be reworded this way.
Yeah, and I improvise all the time in when I'm reading scripts. It is a constant negotiation and editing session. Mainly for these reasons, this word needs to go here, or this paragraph is redundant, or it's not clear because this is missing, or this is overemphasized, or the contour of the sentence is just wrong. There's a music to this stuff, and you have to conduct
literally. And altogether, given how you appreciate this material, do you think it's just a good reminder to other people, is like, if you feel this passionately about it, you will do a better job at it because your heart is in it?
Yeah, there is a danger of making what you love your work, because suddenly it becomes your work. It's a job, and there are times in which it is absolutely a job. I wish that I had more time or more distance to appreciate some of the aspects that otherwise, as a civilian, I would probably love more. But there are deadlines, and there are egos, and there are personalities to be managed, and there are mistakes, and it becomes a job. But I will tell you, it's certainly, of all the jobs I've had, this is the best one. And it is because I believe in it. I am attracted to the subject matter, and I get to continue to work in audio, which has captivated me since I was young.
Lovely, very lovely. So you've been very gifted at just finding all this various talent. For those who are getting into doing an audio drama, or even just a giant panel, are there any particular third-party sites you would recommend that are really good at scouting and hiring voiceover artists?
I don't know. I've never used them.
Oh,
we really just hired friends of ours, and so there was no real extraordinary casting process. Now we went beyond our friends, but I don't know if you know this, but in Dallas, there's an actual, a fairly large and considerably talented voiceover artist community because of, because of Crunchyroll that's here.
Mm-hmm. The anime company.
A lot of anime dubbing stuff. Dallas is also a hub for a lot of voiceover for commercial work. So there's a ton of people out there, and Dallas is a big city. So we didn't have to reach too far. And, and everyone else has a recommendation too, even if you ask them. So we didn't cast on any site, and very, very few strangers came into the process. It was just who we thought we knew.
And that's stellar. So, but is there any also like if you do a table read or just a dry run read through, how do you often like recommend people organize their various pros and cons and other notes that they're leaving for each other?
Well, I'm going to surprise you again. We didn't do any rehearsals or table reads at all.
Man.
No, we just get them in the studio. And so, they've read the script, and often we are rewriting the script, on the moment as we hear the actors. We respond to them as much as they respond to us.
Oh, nice.
So it's a process of just getting the chemistry right and making sure that it makes sense. There's a little preamble from, in the case of 1865, usually it was Steve Walters, who was the co-creator and head writer, would talk through the scene with the actors ahead of time, make sure they understand the motivations and the real history behind it. But these guys are professionals. They're able to get a cold script and apprehend it pretty quickly. So no, we just rolled tape, and if something wasn't working, we tried to fix it.
Man, how about that? Given how you've embodied so many faces of history, are there any other roles you would like to inhibit in voiceover capacity that's just on your bucket list? You're like, I gotta play that person before I hang this part of my career.
Well, the truth is I really have only played one person as a real voice actor, and that was Abraham Lincoln. And holy moly, I don't know how you can approach such an iconic figure. I am not an actor. I've never trained as an actor. I do act in many of my the reenactments in my shows, but I'm not trying to convincingly portray these people. Oftentimes, I'm the only voice, so I will play all the roles, but I don't put on voices. Really, for the because I think one, I think I would be bad at it. And two, I think it would be, it would cheapen the show. If we wanted that, then we should hire a full cast. My shows are much more of the ilk of a parent telling you a bedtime story, right? In which all the voices are your dad. And so I have a limited set of tools to work with because I don't do voices or even try to attempt any sort of realistic imitation of anyone. I have pitch, I have pace, and I have power. The 3 P's that I think about when I approach a character.
Well,
and this is often very intuitive. I read all my scripts cold, so there's no preparation going into this. But very soon I will figure out which of these 2 characters, and it's almost always just 2, has the power in the situation in this scene.
Lovely.
And how can I differentiate them by pitching one voice up and one voice down, and speaking a little faster versus speaking a little slower. And I don't try to approximate regional accents. I really, it's kind of a deliberate, straight down the middle sort of thing, which I think serves the material more, because it would be distracting if you heard me try to be these people. Already I get enough complaints that I don't sound like a woman, which I don't. But it turns out there are a lot of women in history.
Correct. Okay, well, no, this is awesome. I love this kind of blunt honesty because it's just everyone's got to go where they're comfortable.
Yeah, and we were making it up as we went. No, there were no real rules for shows like this. There were some examples, but it's from the beginning it was decided that it was a single narrator show. And although we have employed voice actors on American History Tellers on occasion to more fully realize the cultural and social tapestry of the history we're telling, most of the time it's just me telling you a story. And so you kind of have to accept that premise.
It's a very delightful one. Would you say at this rate you're just very fearless? Because when it started, it was kind of make it or break it. And then now at this point, it's just like we know the rules to our show. We know what we will and won't do. No one can hurt us at this rate,
Oh, well, I think thinking that no one can hurt us is probably the thing that can hurt us. Complacency probably is the big danger. You are right that in early days it was terrifying. There was no guarantee of success. I was working full time in marketing, doing this on nights and weekends. It was just almost a fantasy. It was pretend that anything like this could actually turn into a job. But it did. And so then, you start to have to take it seriously like a job. And then you start to grow worried because, you've got a family to support and things can go away. And there are these, hundreds of thousands of people who are listening to your podcast, and you have no control over them.
Yeah.
So you do think carefully, just out of self-preservation, about how things are good and what things are efficient and how to control costs while maximizing quality. It is a big dance. And I think my number one frustration is always, how can this be better? Given our resources, given the times and the money that we've got, how could this be better? So am I untouchable, invincible? No, absolutely not. And I'm every new project evinces the same feelings of just fear. That what if it doesn't work out? Because these things have real costs and emotional costs if they don't take off. And you have to manage that, and you manage that by the only thing I do have control over, and that's how hard I can work at it.
Lovely. And given how advertising was your main study, are there any universities or advertising books you recommend for others that you think really hold up and would be a good just introduction to see who's serious about this profession and who needs some work?
Well, I need to correct a small bit. My degree is in marketing, not advertising.
Marketing.
So this is much more the study of bringing products to market. What are the there's like the 3 P's of marketing, or 5 P's. I can't remember the price, the product, the people, the place. I don't know. I forget it. It's been a long time since I was in class. It's also been a long time since I studied or paid attention to anything that I've read about marketing. So I'm afraid I don't have off the top of my head any recommendations.
Oh, it's all good.
I'm trying to think. No, not really. I mean, additionally, most of my focus was in analytical marketing. So it was on, I was deeper into spreadsheets than anything else. And so statistical analysis and sourcing data was probably my biggest focus, and I don't want to recommend textbooks of that to anyone.
Fair enough. Given how far you've come now, and what other advice would you say to anyone who's constantly noticing just their career just shift for better or worse, and how to kind of just remind yourself, hey, sleep on this, don't stress on this, but do do make a killing, do keep being studious and seeing what you can do.
My success, such as it is, and this new career in podcasting is really just a complete accident. I was given an opportunity that I don't think I really deserved. But somehow I demonstrated an acuity in audio and behind the mic and in writing ad copy that attracted the attention of Hernan Lopez, CEO of Wondery, and that started my career. He put a lot of trust into me. So what I'm saying here is, I don't think that you can control those moments. That roll of the dice, may come your way or may not. I had no control over what Hernan heard or thought about me, and his subsequent decision to offer me the opportunity to host American History Tellers. What I did every single time afterwards, though, once the lightning is in the bottle, I think I will congratulate myself on attempting to make every opportunity work in my favor after that. So that if the spark happens, you have to let it catch the kindling, because you'll never get your fire going. Someone else is bringing the flint. You don't control that, but you can build the fire around it. And so I would think that anyone struggling with any decision really has to truthfully assess what levers are in their hands, what power they really possess, what can they change, what is in their control. And if it is in their control or even close to it, then just with all your might, run in that direction. And be as the Buddhist, if it's out of your control, don't worry. If it's in your control, do something about it.
Lovely. And do you feel like just so many people will just kind of bottle up and just stress out, not be honest with themselves? Like, I'm unhappy, but I got to tough it out on this job, or I could quit this job because there's been 5 other opportunities that have presented themselves and I just haven't acted on it yet.
I think there's inertia is very understandable.
Fear.
Yeah, I mean, well, most people don't have significant buffers to carry them through a dangerous moment in their lives. Saving money is hard.
Oh yeah.
And then relying on your savings is terrifying. So, if you are to make changes or drastic changes in your career, you have to face up to the fact of that there could be real catastrophic consequences, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think anyone is really prepared to do that, especially if they're older, especially if they have people relying on them, if they've got an established lifestyle that they can't imagine, stepping down from. I don't know how to conquer that. I think careful planning and a realization of like, what is the worst that you could tolerate? Is losing your house something that can happen and you'll be okay with it because you took your shot? What sort of person wouldn't be frightened by that sort of interrogation of their life? But if you're going to make risks, take risks, and then I think you just have to assess how risky they are.
Gotcha. And given how you've illustrated so many significant aspects of history. Would you recommend people even start teaching historical podcasts in schools and colleges?
I know that they are. I think they're used quite often in classrooms to kind of bring an additional richness to a certain subject. I love getting responses from listeners, either students or teachers, indicating that they've been listening to one of my shows in the classroom or as homework. It's just fantastic. I'm actually really surprised at how large of a young audience I have, who listen to these shows with their families or in school, and just makes me feel wonderful. I can't think of a better audience really to have, because they're so enthusiastic about the subject. And this is the first time they've heard this story. They're not influenced by anyone else's version of it. They don't have any preconceived notions or their own politics to bring to the story. It is, and hopefully just reinforcing a love of real history, human history, the study of the people behind the events and dates. And that we can engender that love of study, for the rest of their lives.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Anything that's upcoming that you would love to plug?
Well, I have a lot of shows, so there's always new episodes coming out. So I'd have 3 weeklies and 1 daily right now. So. Please tune in to American History Tellers, American Scandal, Business Movers, which is my history of business shows.
Yep.
The shorter daily show, History Daily.
1865.
1865 is the audio drama about events surrounding Abraham Lincoln's assassination, and there's definitely more to come. Recently, I've partnered with a bunch of other history podcasters to provide an ad-free bonus content subscription platform. It's called Into History, and you can find out more at intohistory.com. But you can support a lot of really fantastic independent history podcasters by subscribing there and getting all of their stuff, plus a bunch of bonus episodes ad-free and sometimes early. So that would be meaningful if you like history.
Oh, totally. I'm going for the American elections one slowly, and it's just... It's definitely one of those you wish you kind of had C-SPAN back in those days, Yeah, definitely. To actually sum up all the winners, the losers, and just the various tricks they played versus the debating skills that were then versus now. And it's just eye-opening as to whether anyone actually gets something out of the, debate versus it's just kind of everyone posing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and now that these have really taken off, I really do hope just they keep being rediscovered, and they dated so well too. It's only been like 3 years, and still people are rediscovering it or introducing it to someone else, and it seems easier. I applaud all the podcast sites who are actually now like putting different podcasts in different genres. Like, this is a history podcast, this is a documentary podcast, this is a, that there's a specifying which exact one it is. I hope this keeps being rewarding for you emotionally.
Oh, thank you. I hope so too. I hope everyone, can find meaning in their work. I certainly have. And it's a really nice feeling. So I hope to be doing it for years and years to come, and let's just hope that everyone gets a little more past in their present.
Right.
We'll return after these messages.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up